Hello, and welcome to Unity of Fredericksburg. My name is Linda, and I'm pleased to welcome all of you to the Unity of Fredericksburg weekly online gathering. At Unity of Fredericksburg, we are advancing the movement of spiritual awakening and transformation through unity, a positive path for spiritual living. We thank those of you watching on YouTube live or later and invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're able to attend live, we encourage you to join us in the Zoom community room for the full Sunday morning experience, including music, prayer, and connection. Our weekly newsletter includes a Sunday service link, and you can subscribe to receive that on our website at uofva.org. For everyone local to Central Virginia, Unity of Fredericksburg offers a variety of fun and enriching in-person gatherings every month. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter at uofva.org for all the details. Our message today comes from our minister, Reverend Cheryl Fair. And now here's Reverend Cheryl.
Thank you, Linda, and welcome everyone who is in the Zoom room with me right now, and those of you who are watching on YouTube or on social media, whether you're watching live or coming in later. Your energy is a part of this activity, and we are so happy to have you with us. Our broadcast date today is Sunday, July the 12th, and today we return to the rhythm of our annual theme at Unity of Fredericksburg. Our focus for the month of July is on being present. Now, being present means lots of different things. Today, our focus is on being present with grace. But first, I have some humor to share with you. This is a string of biblical wisdom from 9-year-olds. Okay, keep that in mind, 9-year-olds. So here are things from the Bible according to 9-year-olds. The people who followed Jesus were called the 12 decibels. Adam and Eve were created from an apple tree. Noah's wife was called Joan of Arc. Moses died before he ever reached Canada. Joshua led the Hebrews in the Battle of Jericho. St. Paul converted to Christianity. He preached holy acrimony, which is another name for marriage. Christians have only one spouse. This is called monotony. When Mary heard she was the mother of Jesus, she sang the Magna Carta. And finally, Jesus was born of his mother's immaculate contraption. So I hope that those strings of biblical wisdom from 9-year-olds gave you a little bit of laughter for today, because laughter is a form of grace. And we're talking about grace today. Here is a quote from the late Pope Francis, who said that he prayed every day for a sense of humor to help him with his ministry. And here's the quote: "A sense of humor is a gift I ask for every day because humor lifts me up and shows me that life is short and to take things in the spirit of a redeemer. It's a human attribute, but it's the closest to God's grace." So more on humor later. We're talking about grace, and let's begin by looking at the various meanings of the word grace, because grace is one of those words that means lots of different things, right? So we're looking at mainstream definitions right now. And the first definition that might come to mind for a lot of people is simple elegance or refinement of movement or manners. So one video that I have seen on social media that reminds me of this so much is a video of a very frail, thin, elderly woman in a wheelchair, and her caregivers put some headphones on and they play the music from Swan Lake by Tchaikovsky. And she instantly, this woman who's nonverbal and spends most of her time in the wheelchair, she immediately begins to do the motions of the choreography from Swan Lake when she was, as a young woman, a premier ballerina. So she exhibits perfect grace even at that phase of her life. So grace means that elegance and refinement of movement or manners. It can mean a short prayer before meals, like who's going to say grace? And of course, there is the religious definition, of grace. And I was working from dictionary.com. Unmerited divine favor and assistance. So I want to focus on that word unmerited. So you don't have to earn grace. A lot of times we go through our daily lives feeling like we need to earn a living, earn favor, be a good kid and do the things we're supposed to do in order to earn some time off. The nature of grace, even whether it's a religious definition or a New Thought definition, which we'll talk more about later, is unmerited. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to earn it. Here's a quote from Unity Minister Eric Butterworth in a writing called Celebrate Yourself. You do not have to earn grace. It is not something that comes only to the good. It comes to all alike simply because all alike are expressions of God. Now, the religious understanding of grace is often associated with the concept of being saved. And this will frequently refer back to a letter written, it's attributed to the Apostle Paul. And the writings of the Apostle Paul are really kind of what forms the foundation of Christianity. And this is from Ephesians 2, verse 8. For it is by grace you have been saved through faith. It is the gift of God. So that's the writings of Paul. I do want to point out that Jesus is never attributed with using the word grace in any of the four gospels, not once. The concept of grace is absolutely present in his teachings, but the word is not there. The only place that the word appears in the New Testament is the writings of Paul and the other writings, that this is not something that Jesus talked about. And of course, many of us, most of us, are probably familiar with the hymn Amazing Grace that was written by John Newton in 1779. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. So there's that being saved aspect of how grace is defined in a religious sort of way. Now, this understanding of grace refers to a God, a being, an entity outside of us, a God that gives us goodies, whether we deserve it or not, sometimes unexpectedly. Also, this kind of outer God might take away things without explanation. And when we hold this kind of belief in some sort of outer being, we are left perpetually in victim mode, always kind of waiting to see what's going to happen next. So all of these previous definitions of grace are part of the mainstream, part of the consciousness that we all participate in. But this, friends, right here, this is unity. And unity is part of a denomination known as New Thought. So what does New Thought have to say about grace? Well, let me start off by saying that in New Thought, when we sing Amazing Grace, we don't say saved a wretch like me. We say saved a soul like me. And why? Well, the answer comes from Unity's second principle, since that which we call God is good all the time, and the expression of that goodness happens at the point of each of us, then also we are good. We are not wretches. We are good. Now, we may have our bad days and our good days, but Unity teaches this inherent goodness of humanity, just as God expresses as goodness all the time in every moment. So let's hear more about how Unity founders taught about grace and defined grace. So Unity co-founder Charles Fillmore taught that grace is the free, unearned, ever-present activity of divine mind. Free, unearned, ever-present activity of divine mind. And of course, divine mind is one of the ways that we refer to all that is, the universe, whatever language you'd like to use to refer to the divine. Here's a quote from, again, I've got another quote from renowned Unity minister Eric Butterworth. He taught that grace is not a mysterious divine gift bestowed from the outside, but the natural, built-in bias of the universe toward life and wholeness and good. So again, not something outside of us that gives us something unexpectedly good, but the what we are a part of, the universe expressing and unfolding, and that's what grace is. So what makes grace as a concept truly distinct is this quality of being unearned or unmerited or unexpected. So all the definitions, whether traditional or new thought, indicate that you don't have to do anything to earn or to experience grace. You don't have to earn it, you don't have to deserve it. But notice all of these qualifiers that we're talking about, unmerited, unearned, unexpected, all of these have to do with our mindset, our human mindset, and the activity of the outer world, right? In the challenges of our lives, when things get tough, something good shows up to save the day, and we call that grace. But this leads us to something else that needs to be explored here. How is grace experienced at the level of consciousness in our divine nature rather than our human nature? So here's a quote from Emily Cady, who's the author of Lessons in Truth. Emily Cady was kind of one of the crowd that was hanging around with Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, although she was not physically nearby them, but she was writing in the same time that they were writing, and they kept getting requests to write out, like, what is unity? What does unity believe? And they were the Fillmores were kind of busy forming unity, so they asked Emily Cady to write what unity believes. And that book, that collection of essays, became the book that's called Lessons in Truth. So Emily Cady taught that God is already giving all good now, and our work is to open our consciousness to receive it. So here's Emily Cady saying, there is something for us to do here. We don't just kind of sit there and wait for the good stuff to show up. Our work is to open our consciousness to receive it. Likewise, Unity founder Myrtle Fillmore taught that grace is the ever-present, loving activity of God that responds the moment we turn toward truth. That responds the moment we turn toward truth. So here are these wise women telling us that there is something for us to do here, rather than focusing solely on the outer activity of our daily living, the ups and downs of all of those things, that opening our awareness to the flow of good, the flow of God in every moment and every circumstance. Those times, and we talk about it over and over, my friends, when we are so deeply engaged with the activity of our outer lives and what might be frustrating or sad or boring or whatever, those moments when we pivot our attention to our divine nature, to our deep connection in oneness with all that is, opening our consciousness, this is what we can do to truly experience grace. And grace is nothing more than an awareness of the flow of good that is always present. And we don't always see that flow of good in our human lives, right? We can look at stuff and say, that's not good. That's not good. This is not a good day. The more we are open to the flow of good that is always present, the more we will become aware and have these moments that we call grace. We need to be, in order for that to happen, we need to be truly appreciating the abundance of goodness that is present in all circumstances. And we need to be willing to recognize it, to accept it, to receive the ever-present flow of goodness. Very often when we're involved in our outer lives, I messed that up, I didn't do a good job. Are we in a frame of mind to receive goodness, to recognize grace? No. But the more we are willing to recognize that there is a flow of good in every circumstance, the more we open ourselves to experiencing grace. And the more we can accept that it is present and that good is present in every circumstance. And the more we can give ourselves a break and receive the goodness that is present. Here's a quote again from Eric Butterworth. Got a lot of Eric Butterworth today. Few words in Christian theology are used more and understood less than grace. What does it mean? How does it work in our lives? Though this word has been wrapped in mystery, it's a really very simple explanation of the natural flow of the creative process in the individual. The natural flow of the creative process in the individual. So as we're going through our daily lives, if we're all fixed on things that aren't going wrong or things that we don't like, that's what we're creating. More of that, more of the same, more thoughts of that, more feelings of that. And if we're willing to shift to appreciating the good, the little moments, the little breath, the little glimpse of a bird, the little bit of laughter that comes up throughout a day, the more we are in that experience of grace and indeed creating those moments as we recognize good that is present. Here is another quote, and this comes from a writing called Grace and the Creative Process by the late Deidre Price. We are co-creators with God. When our consciousness is aligned with the nature of being, which is love, we are in the natural flow of the creative process of grace. Here's another quote. This quote comes from Hypatia Hasbrook in the Handbook of Positive Prayer. Grace is not a special activity of God reserved for human emergencies. It is omnipresent. So the more you can wrap your consciousness around this notion of omnipresent goodness, the more you operate from of faith in that, expecting goodness to be flowing, the more you will experience goodness. The moment of that experience, that spark of realization of look at that, feel that, that is grace. Those very human moments where it's really crowded out there and you're looking for a parking space and leaning into everything I need is here present, then you find a space. And if you're all in, I'm never going to find a space, I'm running late, it's hot outside, the more you get of that. So take a moment right now, my friends, and just think of whatever the most pressing concerns are that you have in your life right now. Just take a moment and kind of get that. Try not to make the list too long. So ask yourself, are you actively looking for the good in that situation? Are you? You can just kind of carry that question. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. We slide in and out of that, right? Ask yourself, are you open to the flow of grace? Because you have to be open to receive in order to have all that, recognize that that goodness is there. So we recently talked about karma in a series of talks on the book called The Seat of the Soul by Gary Zukav. So here's an interesting quote about karma, again from Eric Butterworth, about karma and grace. Grace explains the inadequacy of the idea of karma. It is true that as you sow, so do you reap. Yet God's desire to express completely through you and as you is so great that you never completely reap the harvest of error. You always reap more good than you sow. This is grace. So, is grace a gift? I would say yes, indeed. When things feel overwhelming and we lean into our faith, grace shows up as an idea when you were really feeling confused, a helping hand when you were really feeling all alone, a sense of relief when the pressure is on. The question is, are you willing to accept, to receive the unexpected flow of good known as grace? When you are willing, you realize that grace is a gift you give yourself by practicing this willingness to be aware and focused on the presence of good, even when your human eyes don't show you anything that's good. This is when you give yourself the gift of grace. As I mentioned at the beginning of my talk, one of the most wonderful ways we experience grace is when we lighten up, have something funny, have a good giggle, have a good belly laugh. Like, look at me getting all worked up over that. And it just is what it is. Let me just have a laugh. So I'm going to, today actually, going to end my talk with another joke. And then we'll go into our time of meditation. So here we go. A man dies and goes to heaven. Of course, St. Peter meets him at the pearly gates, and Peter says, here's how it works. You need 100 points to make it into heaven. You tell me all the good things you've done, and I give you a certain number of points for each item, depending on how good it was. So when you reach 100 points, you get in. Okay, the man says, I was married to the same woman for 50 years and never cheated on her, even in my heart. That's wonderful, says Peter. That's worth 3 points. 3 points, the man says. Well, I attended church all my life and supported its ministry with my tithes and service. Terrific, said Peter. That's certainly worth a point. 1 point. golly, what? How about this? I started a soup kitchen in my city and worked in a shelter for homeless veterans. Fantastic. That's good for 2 more points, St. Peter said. 2 points, the man cried. At this rate, the only way I get into heaven is by the grace of God. And St. Peter smiles and says, come on in. So we're going to move into our time of meditation, my friends. With a giggle, with a little laugh, we're going to focus on our breath. Just relax into this moment with the echo of laughter carrying us into this time together. Focus on the breath moving in and out of the body. If you wish, you can allow your outer eyes to drift closed or just soften your gaze, whatever's comfortable for you. Just expand your awareness of the omnipresent flow of goodness. Goodness is another word for divine mind, God, universe, spirit, divine love. Feel that flow of goodness in every cell of your body. Feel that flow of goodness all around you. The breeze that touches your skin, nature expressing in wondrous ways. The goodness is also expressing through all aspects of your life. Feel that moment, feel that anticipation of knowing that something good is around the corner. But no matter how things look, that goodness is expressing. If we just give ourselves some grace and expand our awareness. Settle in now to just feel and sense that flow of good to and through and from all living beings as we move into some time in the stillness here together. And as we begin to bring our focus back to the present moment here in the body, feel the movement of the air against your skin. Feel the breath moving in and out of the body. And invite ourselves in the hours and days and weeks to come to look for the good. Be willing and ready to experience grace. Give ourselves the gift of grace in every circumstance, in every moment. And we will close our time of meditation with an affirmation. And when I say an affirmation, I like to put my hand right on my heart so that the affirmation is grounded in the body, anchored in my heart space, and not just words floating around in the air. So I'm going to say it once, and then you can repeat it a couple times with me at home, okay? I look for the good and experience grace with gratitude. Say it with me. I look for the good and experience grace with gratitude. Let's do it one more time. I look for the good and experience grace with gratitude. I claim that for myself, and I claim that for all of you, my friends. And now I'm going to turn it back to our friend Linda, who will close out this YouTube broadcast for us.
Thank you, Reverend Cheryl. And thank you all for watching the weekly broadcast from Unity of Fredericksburg. Visit our website, uofba.org, to learn more about our mission of spiritual awakening and transformation, and support our ministry with your financial donation. Thanks again for watching, and see